friends, I'm back and we're doing this video on today. It's going to be on Chenopodium album, also known as Lambsquarters, smartweed, or wild spinach, or goosefoot. So we're going to talk about this a little bit. There's some other names too. I'm going to talk about those also. So as you can see, this is loaded with Lambsquarters, which is the easier English name that people know it as. I pick this every year. Usually my greenhouses are loaded with it, and we pick it before we till. And I take it and I steam it down, and then I freeze it so I can have it throughout the winter. So there's a few things about this plant that I'll talk about today, and one of them being it's a very wild edible. You can eat it year round. I know Canadians would pay good money for this wild edible, but right now we're just going to talk about what we're going to do with it. So Lambsquarters there's other names that are called fat hen, frostblight, pigweed, like what I had already said, white goosefoot, because it has a light powder on it. So this has like this white powder on the leaves itself. Here's a better one here. Let's see if I can pick it and go through the plant. So it has this little white powdery residue on it. You see that? It's kind of cool. It's like a waxy substance, and what it does the water beads off of it. So it's kind of like a protective waxy substance. Plus there's a lot of minerals in this here, so don't let that fool you. And that's another way of distinguishing, whether this is Chenopodium album. See that? Kind of neat, huh? So it also, if you look closely, you can see, well, maybe not on this one, they have the red around their leaves. Like for instance, here's one. See the red? You can see the faint red lines. Goes all the way around it. It's kind of neat. And the reason why it's called goosefoot, because it looks like a goose's foot. And again, it has that white, waxy, powdery on it. So when water drops on it, like here's one, I just found one. When water drops on it, it'll do this. The water just will bead right off. So I think it's more of like a protective thing for the plant. So let's get into it here. They can grow up to between 2 to 7 feet tall. And right now they're about 1.5 feet tall. Some are really small. You're going to have these all year around in your gardens. You can go out and pick them and add them in your salads. So the silvery waxy coating, like I said, is like a protective thing for it, and plus it has a lot of minerals in it. The tap roots are rigid branching stems that often have red stripes, which is the one I just told you. I'm getting ahead of myself. The tap roots are really strong. And so these guys are going to come back every single year, different places. They'll throw their seeds. And here's some of the seeds already forming on these guys. Look how many seeds. It's crazy, huh? And we'll get into that too. The seeds are edible, but not like this at this stage. You have to do some work to it in order to make it edible. I've never really had the seeds, but I was thinking about trying it. You know me, I like to try things. So, like I said, they often have the red stripes, which you can see also on the stems. Sometimes the stems, oh, here's one. There's so much here. I'm just so grateful to be able to show you. See, the stems are red. They have the red going up the stems. Sometimes you don't see it. Like this one, you won't really see it as much. Let's get back up here. Sometimes you won't see it. Like this one doesn't really have much of the red. It has a little bit, but not very much. So a lot of people will see these in their gardens and wonder, oh, it's just a weed. Well, it's an edible weed. Oh, here's a great one. Sorry about the background noise. Look at this one. Look how nice and red that is. So there's different ones, and there's more. There's lots of Chenopodiums. If you look up Chenopodium as a Latin name, you're going to find many other different Chenopodiums. So this is Chenopodium album. So don't forget that. This is Chenopodium album. So it loves to be in disturbed places. Like this is kind of disturbed because it's where my greenhouse originally it was. And it's one of the top worst weeds in the North America. I think it's one of the top best herbs or edible in North America. At large uses of the herbicides that are being overused for such a long time, this is how they get rid of it and eradicate it. It's only made Chenopodium, this plant here, resistant to it. So they call it a weed. I don't call it a weed. So the non-chemical method has always been effective, and to control the overgrowth, which is, tilling it in, which we normally do. We just till it right in for the nitrogen, eating it, using it as cover crops, fertilization, and the timing and all that. Like if you till before this comes up, you're not going to have really hardly any. But when it starts to go seed, the seeds will definitely start throwing them for next year's harvest. So you want to, it flowers actually from July to October. Actually, sometimes a little bit earlier than that. Just depends on if they're inside the greenhouse and they're getting all that nice warm, day sunshine warmth. So the seeds will ripen in August to October. This species here is hermaphrodite, so mostly green and sometimes red you'll find, like I just showed you. Also, the hermaphrodite means has both male and female organs. It is pollinated by the wind. The leaves are rich in fiber and has the laxative properties that, which cures constipation. I've eaten these plenty of times and I've never had any issues with diarrhea or any of those worries, but some people are more sensitive to wild edibles if they have a really toxic body. So no worries unless you're like eating bowls of it a day, which I doubt you are. You're eating small amounts of it along with other things. There is a caution about the high oxalic acid that comes from the plant. It's not for good for those people with arthritis or stomach issues. So that's kind of a lot of people. There are native and non-native species, and there are multiple common species that go by the names of, like we already had said, like Lambsquarters. They like the disturbed sunny grounds like gardens, crop fields, construction sites, floodplains, driveways. The seeds can, like I said, they go dormant. So if you get them before they go seed, then you won't have a lot of this in your gardens. So they can go dormant for centuries and then germinate after they get disturbed. If you start moving things around and there's some seeds in there, well, they're going to pop up. So we want to gather the tender leafy tops and young edibles from the spring till fall. Can be eaten raw, cooked, or steamed. We're going to take it in the kitchen and we're going to cook it up. I'm going to do a stir fry and I'm going to do a steam and show you what the plant looks like, just the small tender ones, because I have some other ones around here that are really tiny. So when it tastes like spinach, of course. It looks like spinach, tastes like spinach. Another name they call it is wild spinach, spinach is also high in oxalic acid, just to put that out there. So by steaming it or boiling it, you can remove a lot of the oxalic acid, and then you can add it to your soups and your stews and your stir fries, which I've done. I think I did a video on it a couple times on the stir fry. I think it was the burdock leaves, which were just bitter. The older plants, you can use the leaves, the stems. The stems get tough, but late in the summer, the seeds can be rubbed together to get off the chaff, which is not digestible. And that's why I said you have to, process the seeds. It's not that hard, but I mean, if it was the only source of food you had, then you definitely would do it. It just can be irritating to the mouth and the throat. You don't want that to happen. So you soak the seeds, you rub them, you drain, then remove the saponins in the seeds. Then cook it into a porridge or dried and ground into flour for storage, and that's what they used to use it for, as flours to cook things with. This is one of the best known and commonly used wild plant in North America related to spinach, like I had said, and it's exceptionally nutritious. It was used to fatten up livestock instead of today's system using feed due to more animals being being bred. That's why they're doing it the conventional way. So the nutritional value is high in fiber, beta carotene, vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, zinc, riboflavin, copper, manganese, omega-3, folic acid, and iron. I think I got it all. There might be a few others that I'm missing, but you can always do a little more research on this plant. It's an exceptional wild food, and it has 2 times higher in vitamin K than spinach, Swiss chard, and broccoli. So the rich sources of lutein and other carotenoids, which is a very lovely wild edible. Again, the edible parts, the growing tips, the tops, I guess when they're tiny, I have a few tiny ones, but I'll show you when we go inside. I'll pull some of these tips off. They're very tender. That's why they say the tips. And you can eat the growing tips and the leaves anytime. The buds, clusters, seeds, they come in October. The seeds are high in protein, some oils, and as a good starch. So that's why they use it in making breads and stuff with. So I'm going to talk about oxalates, and people go, what is oxalic acid? I don't want that to hurt me. Well, the oxalates are naturally occurring substance which is found in almost every living thing. They're typically found in large quantities in the wood sorrel family and buckwheat family, and the goosefoot family, which is they call it goosefoot. The plants high in oxalates, like spinach, sorrel, rhubarb, Swiss chard, beet greens, any greens, black tea, cacao, wild spinach, which is lambsquarters right here, sheep sorrel, wood sorrel, purslane, and even curly docks, which I'll be doing a video on curly docks, Japanese knotweed, and pokeweed, which I don't have any pokeweed around here, so I probably won't be doing pokeweed. So most people today have calcium oxalate crystals, gout, already from prior diets and choices like alcohol and drugs, and a lot of people are on medications. A normal digestive tract absorbs only small fractions of it, the oxalates that binds, and it also oxalates bind with calcium. So there's a lot of people today afraid to eat oxalates for the fear of being poisoned, which is due to their already toxic diets. So oxalates can bind with calcium, remember that, but other minerals in the digestive tract, making it both the calcium and the oxalates unavailable for absorption. It's a natural protective effects that calcium provides to further decrease the amounts of oxalates absorbed. So in a normal healthy diet, almost all oxalates are excreted through the bowels, with little being absorbed through the intestines. So plants with high oxalate content are often high in calcium. So making it no loss of the calcium, the plant will supply calcium so that it's not depleted in your diet. How about that? So the plants are pretty smart. Since oxalates bond to calcium in the digestive tract, they may also bond to toxic heavy metals like mercury, lead, cadmium, helping to eliminate them from the body before they can be absorbed. So, that's another plus, because we know heavy metals are really, can destroy you pretty fast. So we are going to do some of the leaves, the stems. Let's see what else we're going to do. The leaves, the stems, we're going to cook those up, and you can boil the stems if they're tough, like for 5 to 10 minutes. You can boil them or steam them. They'll get more tender and less fibrous. You can use the greens, the stalks. You can use it in a quiche, omelets, lasagna, pesto, any recipe that calls for spinach, or just raw in a salad. So I think that covers a whole lot of stuff. And so I'm going to be pulling off these. See how these are really tough? Like, they're not as what do I want to say? They're a little tougher than when you come closer to the smaller ones, which are really tender. These are like really, really tender. But we're going to take them all because I'm going to show you that just by cooking it, these stalks will get nice and tender. They're a little thicker now. And we'll be able to stir fry them up and cook them. And I'm going to show you a couple more really nice examples of these guys. Let's see. They're like everywhere in here. See how big these are? It's pretty good size. But I'm going to pull these off. I'll probably pick a couple of these plants so we can do these stalks. I waited till these stalks got a little big just so I could do this. And we'll cook these up. We'll make a nice dish out of it. You can put it on stir fry. You can put it on, mix it in with your vegetables. You can put it on rice. You can put it on quinoa. You can make it on whatever you want. You can even, like I said, we used to pick it and make baskets full of it in the spring before we would plant our gardens in the greenhouse, and we would simmer it down or steam it down, and I would drain it, make sure a lot of the water was out of it, and then I would put them in little freezer bags and freeze them up for the winter and just take them out and have them just for some nice greens because they're so valuable. So here you have it. This is Lambsquarters, Chenopodium, and lamb's quarter or goosefoot. I call it pigweed because it's just so much easier to say. Lambsquarter, pigweed, it's in English. So we'll see you in the kitchen. I'm going to go cook some of this up. I'm going to show you how to cook it. It's very fast and easy. And you can eat it raw. So I'll pick some smaller versions so you can see that also. All right, we'll see you in the kitchen, everyone. Peace. Hey friends, I'm back doing the second part of our video for the Chenopodium album, which is also lamb's quarter, or as some people know it as wild spinach, or goosefoot, or pigweed. I like calling it pigweed because it's so easy. When we were kids, we called it pigweed. That's how I originally knew it, was as pigweed. So as I learned later on that there's many other names. So I'm going to show you, like I talked about before, these are the smaller tips, which are really tender, and then they still have the little white crystals on them. And remember, that's just a waxy substance that actually is high in minerals. So you don't want to be washing all that off. I just kind of lightly rinsed them off, which the water will bead off of them anyways. And so these little tender tips, these are nice. And also what I have going on here is I'm steaming the the stalks. I don't know why I keep saying stems or roots, but here's the stalks, and those are pretty much almost done. They don't take very long, and when they're small, they are very tender, and they do taste exactly like asparagus. I forget what they taste like because I haven't cooked them in such a long time. Every year I try to do some of it, and every year I always like, oh, I'll just nibble on it here and there in the gardens. When we have an abundance of it, we really do bring it in, and I'll steam it and have it for winter use, and have something special in the winter time and having same old, same old. So these are the tips, and I did chop up a bunch of it just so it looks nicer and it's not in big pieces and big chunks. So now I gotta turn my stove down because remember, cast iron pans will hold their heat for such a long time, and I don't want to get burned, so we'll leave this off of there for a moment. And I'll talk about the garlic that I'm actually going to be putting in this stir fry, because the garlic is, let me grab this out. So the garlic is from my garden, and don't let anybody tell you that you cannot pick. These are the scapes, they're just starting to come up. Don't let anybody tell you can't pick garlic out of your garden just because it's not ready to harvest. You can get garlic from your garden anytime the greens come up. You can cut the greens. You can chop the greens up just like you were chopping up garlic greens that are wild. So these are the scapes, and I found a couple scapes. I was so excited. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have some scapes for my lamb's quarter. And this, again, like you know, all my videos, I have ginger that I've grown in my garden and froze it, and I use it for my edibles. You can find wild greens that have a garlicky taste, and you can also find wild ginger. So, okay, it's still hot, but we're gonna go for it. We'll just be careful. I shut it off already anyways. So this is just the ginger. Again, I like to cut things up so you don't have to waste your time watching me cut vegetables up. I know I don't like watching videos of Ford when it gets so boring like that. And I cook in coconut oil. Some people don't watch all my other videos, so I might be repeating myself. I like to cook with coconut oil because it makes the edibles taste really nice. If you were out in the woods, or if you were somewhere and you were, this is a survival for you, you would just eat it raw as something to give you nutrients. And also, if you had a fire and you had a pot, you could find water, because you're going to boil it anyways. So if there is any bacteria in it, it would be boiled out. So you could boil the whole plant itself. Even if it was later, and these babies are 7 feet tall, you can strip off those leaves and you can cook those leaves up. So what I did was I separated, these are the larger leaves. I've already steamed them ahead of time. Like I said, I didn't want you to sit here and watch a steam, all of this stuff here. So these are the larger leaves, and they steam up like in 5 minutes. It's so fast. You don't even have to put anything on them. They're so, I'm gonna eat this whole thing. They taste so good. It just makes your mouth water. So this is what they look like when they're steamed. They're nice and still green and nice and tender. And even if, like I said, if these are even 7 feet tall, which these plants can get huge, you can strip off the leaves and then go through and take that stalk. If the stalk is not woody, which it can be because it's very fibrous, I'll be showing some pictures of that also. If they're too fibrous, then, you know, don't bother with them because it'll just be stringy and it won't even be any good. But you can have the stalks. That's what I'm doing now, is steaming up these stalks, which are all done. And the stalks, the leaves, the seeds, stalks, leaves, and seeds. Where was I going with that? Lost my train of thought there for a moment. And here we go with just throwing all of the leaves that I chopped up finely. I didn't put them in a bowl, but that's okay. Like I said, we do the water method with a little water in there and get it going. There. So these are done. These are definitely done. I already turned them off. I'm going to show you what these look like, and I'll find that nice purple one. Actually, I think the purple color usually comes out of it. Yeah, it did mostly. That is the stalk, and you see how tender that is. It's just like an asparagus. It tastes just like asparagus. It's so soft. I'll have to eat that one. That is really good. So you get some of the thicker ones, and I did that on purpose. Here's a big one, and see how it's not hollow. It's very, it's full inside. It's not hollow at all. So, and this one should be tender also. Snaps right open. See how you can do a little bit of fiber, but you can still cut it. It's still edible. You can peel it too if you didn't want any of that fibrous-y stuff. And it's very good. It's definitely not chewy fiber, but it's good. As you can tell, I just ate one. So let's get our fire going. Get our heat up. And just like all the wild edibles that you have been watching me do, there's a ton of food out there, and it's free, folks. Free and easy to pick and easy to cook up. And that's why I do these for you, so you can see. that this is such a easy thing to do. So we're playing with the heat again. What else do I want to talk about? Let's see. So you can take and make and put this on. You can put this on quinoa. You could put it on rice. You could put it on potatoes. You can put whatever you want. You can also, almost forgot, I was going to make a pesto, but I just didn't have time. So the pesto, you would use the greens the same way you would spinach. And that's how you're going to do a pesto. So now we're just stir frying this up. You see how quick this is? Like 5 minutes tops, and you've got such a great dish and such a great green, nutritious, edible. I know some people use butter, some people use other things. I don't. I like to have my wild edibles taste like, you know, originally out of the ground, fresh. So spinach weed, folks, spinach weed, kind of like the gout weed that I just did a video with, the gout weed. The gout weed's pretty good too. It was very tasty. So I've seen other people do dishes like this, and I think I've said this with the gout weed too. You could take and get a can of, or your own stewed tomatoes, Italian seasoning stewed tomatoes, and when this is finished, you just pour your stewed tomatoes into your pan. You know, add it in with this, and then you have like a nice spinach, spaghetti sauce type of dish. Or you can make this into a cream sauce and use this as like a spinach cream sauce. Let's see. And then you can pour it over your pasta, your noodles. You want to make a cheese sauce with it, you can make a cheese sauce with it. You're just going to have like a spinach cheese sauce type of deal. There's lots of ways to cook lambsquarters. I'm going to interchange the name here and there just so you understand that you can, there's lots of names to this. And also there's more than one Chenopodium. This one's Chenopodium album, but even spinach's Latin name is a Chenopodium. So go Google that up and look for other Chenopodiums, because there are others. This is the minor, or sorry, not the minor, the album. Get ahead of myself here. So this is coming along great. Look at this. So here is these guys, all nice and steamed up. Use whatever steamer you want. I prefer not to use aluminum or any type of metals. And these are so soft, they're actually breaking apart like really easy. Any recipe that calls for even artichoke, because that, to me, it tastes like between an artichoke and a asparagus. Any recipe that calls for that, you could use these in the same way. So let's plate these up. Let those look beautiful. Because guess what, folks? This is my dinner tonight. That's what I'm having. Almost done here. Usually the cooking part that I do is a good 7 to 10 minutes. And then I do a lot of talking in between. If you folks ever have questions you want for me, leave them in the comments, and I'll answer them in the next video, or I'll answer them right underneath where the video is already. Please join us on the new network that I'm on, which is Grassroot Warriors Network, and that's on rumble.com. Just look for Vermont Pure Herbs, and all my videos will pop up. That way you don't have to go scrolling through hundreds of videos, because there's going to be hundreds of videos real soon. There's 21 anchors on this new network, and so if you're specifically looking for the wild food edible ones, that would be me. Vermont Pure Herbs. And also, check out my YouTube channel, which I will load all of the videos on there also. But we really would like you to subscribe to the Grassroot Warriors Network. There's going to be a lot of new information coming out, not just mine, but other anchors that are going to be on there hosting and talking about things that they do, which is very interesting. There's a lot of stuff coming up right now. For me, I like to teach the wild edibles. These are wild edible skills. These are skills that can save your life. I have a lot of videos. I was trained for 6 years in the woods types of in and out on the land. I was my teacher's apprentice for many years, and fortunately 3 of my teachers have already passed away. So here I am doing these wild edibles for you. So when I kind of run out of wild edibles to do, which I probably won't, sometimes you miss the boat. Like when a spring edible comes up, if you don't find it and you're busy doing something else, it's gone. You got to wait to the following year. Like for example, purple dead nettle. Now I got some beautiful pictures of purple dead nettle, but it's already gone by. I will not get a chance to cook it up and show you, but I definitely have the pictures on it. We'll be doing another Nettles cooking, another Nettles class here soon. I'm just trying to get through these guys, the tender young shoots of wild edibles right now before they get too big, or again like the goutweed. I missed the boat last year because it went to seed, and this year I caught it in time, so amongst my busy schedule. And don't forget, folks, you can go on my new website, which is vermontpureherbs.com, and check out the new extracts that I have posted on there. I try to post new ones on every month, and I am in a process of doing all these videos, so it's taking a little bit of time away from my website right at the moment, because I want to get these wild edibles out to you folks so you can learn these skills. So this looks like it's almost done. Let's let that water evaporate out. See that? 5 minutes from beginning to end. The prep time's probably like 5 minutes because you have to cut up your ginger, and I chopped this smaller, and you want to chop it smaller because you want smaller bites. It's almost the same with salads. Chop your salads up. You could throw these into the salad, which were the small tender pieces that I showed you, which I already threw these in. Those can go in a salad. Go out and taste this. Taste it raw and just chew it and sit in it with a moment, and you'll get that spinach taste. Absolutely, it'll make your mouth water. So I think we're done here. We've got most of the water evaporated off. We're going to shut this off and we're going to plate it up. We're going to look at the beautiful dish. And I'm going to sit and eat it. It's nice to introduce these spring edibles. Every year you should learn a few edibles and you'll get really good at it. Just learn your, these foods could save your life. I don't know if I've already said that, but these foods could actually save your life. Alright, this is coming off of there. Now, I'll turn the camera around a moment. Let's put this right on the dish. Wait till you see my beautiful plate. It's my son's favorite plate. He loves orange, the color orange. Alright, so I want to turn this around so you can see. This is a beautiful dish. And there you are. So you have your stalks. I keep saying stems, but they're stalks, and also there are some stems that are, these are, the little stems are edible too. You have your stalks that are steamed, or you could boil them. If you boil them too long, they'll turn to mush. They won't be any good, unless you're making a soup, because you can always make a soup with this too, a creamy soup. And then you have your just steamed larger greens, which they're not tough. They're actually they look tough, but they're very, very tender. These are the bigger leaves, and then this is your chopped up tender top leaves, or the smaller leaves I should say, and all you're going to do is stir fry this up. I don't put it on rice or quinoa or anything like that, but that is an option. If I was doing a wild edible class, I definitely would have that available for people to, you know, put it on. Like when we do the dandelion classes, I always have quinoa, or I have rice, or I have other things that are, you know, help with digestion, because people are so used to eating either quinoa or rice with their food. I always recommend that you please go out and try it raw, and then also try it cooked. Don't put anything on it, just a little garlic or garlic scapes, or garlic. If you want to cook with that, that's fine. Even try it without that to see what it tastes like, because I've done it many different ways, and this is how I was taught. Our teachers taught us, eat close to the land as you possibly can, because if there's ever a reason for you to go out and cook and you had no cooking utensils or fire or anything, you want to learn your wild edibles that are easily available to eat right then and there. Just pick it and eat it, because it could save your life. It absolutely can save your life. All right, folks, I'm going to sign off. Hope you enjoy this video. Hit the like button on my YouTube channel. It really helps. Subscribe. Share it with your friends. You know, this is life-saving wild edibles, and we'll see you on the next video. And eat your greens, and peace.